and welcome to another Next Level Love Stories, where we take a behind-the-scenes look at real-life relationships to share the truth about what this adventure of love can look like and what it really takes to succeed.
We're your hosts.
I'm Dr. Jenny Wallig.
And I'm Calvin O'Seeley. And together, we are the founders of Powerful Love Relationships and the creators of the 3-step Powerful Love method that we use for transforming relationships. Today, we're excited to welcome Rebecca.
Rebecca and her husband, Jason, have been together for 26 years.
Wow.
That's a lot of life.
That is.
It's more than a quarter
it's a whole
of a century.
Drinking human. Legal drinking human.
And during that time, they have been through a lot, as you might imagine. But like a lot of us, they weren't so great in the beginning at navigating the challenges of forever together.
We know nothing about that.
Even got to a point where they thought that they would for sure separate. Of course, they didn't. And their path to healing, growing, and getting to what is now the best place their relationship has ever been was not your typical path, which is what we love so much about their story. And we've only gotten a snippet of it, but we're so excited to get more. So what I also want to share about Rebecca, which I think is so cool and so resonant with us, is that because of these experiences, because she's been so successful in turning things around, Rebecca is now sharing her wisdom and skills with others. She is an internationally accredited coach and intuition mentor who specializes in empowering women to create healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
So good.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for being here.
Thank you. That was a great intro.
It was.
Yes. Well, and so we've left people on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And I want to dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your love story with Jason. When did you meet? How did it unfold? What's happened in these 26 years, as much as you can condense them?
What makes it next level? Yeah.
I'm going to go back to almost the very beginning, but I'm not going to cover everything, but you'll get why. So from 3, very much I was a people pleaser from a very early age, and that stemmed from my parents divorcing. I didn't know I was a people pleaser until I was in adulthood myself. But what that meant, as I say, from an early age was kind of learning to be very quiet, not express how I felt, not really speak my mind, not to rock the boat, and what happened then is that continued into my 20s, into my 30s, and it resulted in, although I came across very confident on the outside, sociable, bubbly, could hold a conversation with anyone, inside, I didn't feel like that at all. Very low self-esteem, pretty disconnected to me, not knowing actually who I was and what I wanted. And so that resulted in kind of making hasty decisions in work, in relationships. Jason and I met when I was 21. And 26 years we've been together.
Wow.
So many challenges.
Sure.
I'm not going to say that everyone goes through all of the same challenges. They don't, but they were big challenges, and probably in the last 15 years. So things like we had major trust issues, lots of money and debt problems. We had an ectopic pregnancy thrown in there. My mother passed away when I was pregnant. She was really my mentor at the time.
Sure.
We had lots going on, and we just weren't communicating. And it was a very, very lonely place, to the point I didn't see a way of ever changing that. There was just no other direction. And so all of that kind of just, with us not communicating, we just kind of plodded along, existed in a house together, not being together. And that's the point it got to.
This was after how many years?
What, of being together? Well, those big challenges really came about, as I say, from 15 years onwards.
Okay. So you'd been together for 15 years. And then
those big challenges came about. And
Mhm.
when you're not communicating,
Right.
it just creates such a bigger hole in your, a gap
Oh,
in
yeah.
your relationship.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, with those challenges, I was still feeling I didn't really know who I was and what I wanted, and
Mhm.
felt quite disconnected to me.
Mhm.
Therefore, I couldn't really connect with him and other people, other relationships in my life.
Mhm.
So yeah, we've got to a very dark place where I couldn't see a way out. I just thought, this is not going to work. I don't know how we're going to change this. We
Mhm.
will separate, we will divorce. And we had obviously children very
Mhm.
young at that point too.
Mm.
So that's where we were then. I decided to get support for myself, because I came to a realization we were so very much blaming each other,
Yeah.
pointing the finger,
Yep.
passing the buck, however you want to say, and it
Mhm.
didn't get us anywhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, I really need to do something for me. I need support, because with all the challenges we had, I didn't get support,
Mhm.
and I decided to do that for myself.
That's good.
And I didn't realize just how much it would help us as a couple. I think we can always connect, as couples need support. We have to go and have therapy together. We have to have support together, joint.
Mhm.
Way, yeah, the way I kind of started our journey was that I had the support,
Yep.
because I realized there was no more passing the buck, no more putting the blame on somebody
Mhm.
else. It was about looking within me and actually starting to be responsible and accountable for me.
Mhm.
Yes.
And it was so powerful. I didn't realize that actually how much it would really positively affect Jason and our relationship.
Mhm.
It was that impactful.
Mhm.
So that's where the journey started, really. And so where we are now is we still learn every day. We're still growing every day. But when
Mhm.
you've had 26 years, you are still changing, growing as individuals.
Yeah, of
And
course.
it was
Yep.
us learning to navigate how we could do that together.
Mhm.
Um, and when you said before, we're in the best place we've ever been, we really are, because we now openly talk. We openly express how we feel. There isn't this presuming from one another,
Mhm.
because that hasn't worked. It's very dangerous to presume
Yeah.
someone's thoughts and feelings.
Yep.
And so we are in the best place. We have fun. We're more relaxed. We enjoy each other's company, and our kids see it. Our
Yes.
kids see that,
Yeah.
and now it's just amazing. I can't believe quite the turnaround we've had.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's so amazing, Rebecca. It's so great. And I it it's parallel to our own story,
I was gonna say.
right? Like, because our relationship transformation happened from me doing my own work. But
Yeah.
it's such a radical idea for most people,
Mhm.
right?
Mm,
That I can just get support for myself, I can learn and grow myself, and then all of a sudden it's going to make my relationship better, because it's so easy to see the ways that our partner needs to change. Our
Mhm.
partner needs to also do this differently, but like, I
yeah.
can't control them. What if they never do this? So, like, what did you see happening? How did, in your experience, your own changes result in changes with Jason and in the dynamic between the two of you?
I think, when you're in a very close relationship, you obviously over time you are mirroring each other, and you're kind of giving each permission
Yes.
to be more open, be more honest, be more vulnerable. And up until then, we hadn't been vulnerable. And so
Mhm.
you're kind of second guessing that other person, you know. Um, so it was it didn't happen overnight. And,
Yep.
I had coaching myself for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and we are still growing. We are still developing, as you do, as individuals and as a couple.
Yeah.
But over time, the behaviors changed, and I changed in the way I responded to things and how I might
Yeah.
act on things. And naturally, Jason was doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, when you say about when you had your own support, we're not all there at the same time, are we? We're not all going to say,
Right.
I'm ready to go and get support with you.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and so that's how it happened
Oh no.
for us. I was kind of there. It was a case of almost filtering down. That's the best way I can describe it, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so pleased, because a big thing for us and for me was the environment the children were going to be around.
Yes.
And it's made such a difference to them, seeing how we are, and it
Mm-hmm.
allows them to have openness, to be themselves, and they see that actually our relationship is a lot healthier.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's just, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great gift to give
Mm-hmm.
your children and future generations. Is like an example of a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, our parents are the first place we learn how to do
And
relationships
first
and
teachers.
what to accept and how to manage, challenges and differences, and to be able to like share with our kids an example of how to do that really well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
In our opinion, like that's how we change the world,
Hmm.
right? Because then
yeah,
your kids are going to start their families and they're going to do better, and then their kids, right? It
But
just
not just that, relationships are everywhere, right? And so it's not
yes,
yes,
just your intimate partner stuff. It's like everyone they interact with, they
sure,
exactly. And
matter.
and that's changed my relationships with family members,
Yeah.
with
yes,
friendships, the
yes,
way I show up for anyone.
yeah.
And so that's so important. And I
Mm,
didn't realize, naively, I didn't realize when I started coaching just how much that would be the case.
mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I
It
rave about it.
yeah, yeah. It's like we don't often realize how powerful we are in who we be to impact like the relationships that we're in, all the relationships that we're in,
Hmm.
right? Because it's so our attention is often in the way that we are being impacted by other people or by
Hmm.
our circumstances.
Yeah.
But in particular in relationships, like we each have, we like to say, like 50% of the relationship, right?
Hmm.
Each person is contributing to this relationship.
Mm.
But and it's more than that, because how we show up, how we respond affects the context, the activation, the responsiveness or reactions that another person is likely to have.
Yeah, it definitely influences.
Right? So we
Yeah.
have our 50% and then we have our influence. And
Hmm.
so we like to talk about this like a dance, right? If you're dancing with your partner in doing this relationship dance and the dance isn't working and you don't feel like you can keep doing this dance anymore, do you both need to go take new dance lessons together? I mean, sure you could,
Yeah,
but if
you'll change your dance faster.
yeah, but if just one person decides to go learn a new dance and then comes
Hmm.
back into dancing with their partner and
Yeah.
takes the lead, like in their power of responding differently, of showing vulnerability, of communicating and opening up, that's an
Yeah.
invitation, right? You're taking new dance steps, which invites your partner to have to respond differently because there's a new you who's showing up. There's a new pattern, there's new dance moves.
Yeah. I
And
really
then
like that, actually.
now
Yeah.
it
I
changes.
like the way you've compared that. Yeah. Of course, you want them to be willing. If they're not willing, then
Yes.
but this is how it's worked for us,
Mhm.
and I can see how it just works for other people as well.
Mhm.
Um, so that was years ago. And as I say, we still learn. We change, don't we?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
change, and we're still learning different things about each other still. And I love the journey.
Mm.
And yeah, that's where we are now.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, Rebecca, what do you think were some of the things that were most important for you to have learned, or like
Grow through.
improved or grow through to be able to turn things around so dramatically in your relationship?
Wow, it's probably a list. It's okay to be vulnerable and
Mm.
open, because people can't presume what you're thinking and feeling. And I think that's kind of a natural thing that we tend to do.
Oh yeah.
You've got a thought in your mind or a feeling, and you think
Mhm.
that other person should know. They should know how I'm feeling. They should know what I'm thinking. No, and I think we kind of presume that's what, if you're close, you should know all this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But it's about being open and vulnerable and
Mhm.
just clear communication.
Mhm.
And I realized that until I knew who I was, really knew who I was, and how I
Mhm.
wanted my life to be, what my desires are, no one's going to know who I am. If I don't know
Mhm.
who I am, they're not going to know who I am. And that's
Cool.
a huge
Yeah.
takeaway for me.
Yes.
And that's also why I wanted to do the intuition work alongside the coaching.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are the big things. Being open, being honest, being vulnerable, and also, as I said earlier, to stop the blame game.
Yeah.
So if we imagine that in every partnership, both of those people stopped blaming the other person and
Mhm.
took control of their own, just took accountability and responsibility, how much better would it be?
Yeah.
Loads better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like that is the key. That is like the one paradigm shift that if you can get that,
Mm.
like if you could just make the powerful decision to stop all of the chatter that blames your partner, just not do that. Like what is left in the absence of blaming your partner? Like there has to be accountability. There has to be a turning inward toward
Mhm.
what your own power and responsibility is.
Yeah.
That's the only place you have power.
It
You know,
is.
Yeah.
is what's happening with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get so excited in talking about accountability and like and the transformative power of just no longer pointing your finger and blaming your partner.
Yeah. Because you just go around in circles. It's not
Yep.
getting you anywhere. And
Yep.
it's almost like trying to take control, isn't it, of that other person and their
Mhm.
actions.
Mhm.
And it's just taking away the focus on you. And that can be really uncomfortable, to focus on you. But
Yeah.
to me, I've realized that is the only way to grow.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, we couldn't agree more.
And that said, I want to play devil's advocate for a moment because,
Yeah.
we hear some resistance sometimes when we talk about this, like, don't blame your partner, take accountability, look at yourself kind of thing. And the resistance shows up around, like, well, what if my partner, I've told them that I have this need and they're not meeting it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Nothing's changing.
nothing's,
I've said this 1,000 times.
right? Like, this, I do need them. They're not being honest, or they're not talking to me, or they're not doing the dishes, or they're not standing up for our relationship with their family, or
mhm.
whatever it is. Like, I need my partner to do something different in order for me to be happy. How do you take accountability for that and not point fingers? What does that look like?
That's a good question, because it happens all the time, doesn't it? And
It does. Yeah. This is where
um,
people get stuck in this idea.
I think that really comes to then creating healthy boundaries.
Yep.
It
Yes.
does go back to communication, doesn't it? It's like,
Mhm.
well, this is how I'm feeling. Um, how are you feeling? What's coming up for you? It's about respecting each other's thoughts and feelings on that on that thing that you're kind of challenged with.
Yep.
But it's also, as I say, setting some really healthy and fair boundaries that actually need to work for both of you. Those are the things that came up for us that I think are good starting points.
Yeah.
And you're still working on you. You're still, how you respond, how you feel, how you react to things like that is still about us.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and that to me goes back to your inner guidance, your inner wisdom, and how you can cope with those things and how you can deal with those things.
Yeah, it's like what you said about how important it is to know who you are and what you actually desire. Right. And so that you can set a boundary in saying, like, listen, I really desire to have this experience in our relationship. Get curious about your partner, but also then you're gathering information about, well, what do they need? What's going on with them? Is it possible for them? And then you get to make the sovereign decision of, am I willing to work with this? How do we meet both of our needs? Is there a way to meet both of our needs?
Yeah.
And then decide for yourself. Like, is this something that I'm willing to tolerate? I'm willing to compromise on. I'm willing to give up for myself. Because that's a different position, isn't it? Than just feeling frustrated that it's not happening and thinking that it should. Of just like, of asking for it, getting the feedback, having a partnered like team conversation about it, realizing it's not something your partner might be willing or able to do, and then deciding for yourself what you want to do about it. Now you're in sovereignty and power.
Exactly. And it's the willing for the partner, yourself or the other person, to want to understand why that particular thing is important to them.
Yeah.
You know, and back down to communication. That person may not even realize that something you're not doing, it might be very small, but it might be quite a big thing for the other person. And it goes back to understanding, is there a meaning behind that for that person? And the communication. You know, it could be a very simple, quick conversation to understand, okay, so that person's not nagging me all the time because of this and this. It's just, you know what I mean? It could take 5 minutes and they would really appreciate that. And here we are. We've got more of a balance, got an understanding of each other, you know? So it's those things, piecing those bits together, really.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard you talk about communication a few times, and in our work, we hear that communication tends to be like the problem people have.
Yeah, it's usually their biggest issue.
Right? Like, we can't communicate. We don't communicate. And that looks like, one or both partners are afraid to bring something up, or that when they try to communicate, there's defensiveness or it turns into conflict, or, they attempt to communicate, but their partner doesn't get it or invalidates them or shuts down or doesn't actually change even after they've talked about things. So, you're talking about in your relationship with Jason, you two weren't communicating, and then you did your own work, and then now you're communicating openly. So can you share a little bit about like what you had to learn or how you had to grow in your communication? Like, what did that look like? What were you doing differently that created a different communication dynamic between you and Jason?
I was talking to someone earlier today about listening skills. I think most of us think we can all listen, but it's a skill, right? It's a skill to actually listen to that person and not jump in before they even finish, or not have in your brain your quick response, because you're not listening if you're already thinking what your response is going to be. There were different things. I realized quite quickly, because we'd had a lot of trust issues in the past, being vulnerable was really hard.
Mm.
So when you can build trust, you can learn to be more open and vulnerable with each other, and you know it's a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you do that, the more you understand your partner and where they're coming from. Listening is key. Really kind of getting that to a T, isn't it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we all think we can. We're just but listening is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something else that I kind of developed and honed in more. And the other thing was thinking that Jason would know what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't communicating it out. It was
Mm-hmm.
here, body, mind,
Yep.
and you automatically think that they know, they
Yep.
should know.
Yep.
Yeah, I learned more, and still doing, we're not perfect. I learned to be more open and honest, and
Mm-hmm.
forget that whole, well, they should know. Well, actually, if you haven't said it out loud, how
Yeah.
does that person know? How does that person know? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those elements. So, not presuming all the time, being more vulnerable, because we did build trust again,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just being open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say something about this trust piece too, because the vulnerability and trust, as you're saying, Rebecca, go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's been when there's trust issues or when there's been broken trust, it's hard to be vulnerable, right? Because the more trust we have, the easier it is to be vulnerable. But the thing that builds trust back is vulnerability.
Yeah, those
Mhm.
opportunities.
Right? So it's like this teeter-totter thing. Like,
Yeah.
you're low on trust, but you got to put some vulnerability into the bank, and that builds the trust. And then now it's easier to put a little bit more vulnerability in, and then
Mhm.
trust goes up, right?
That's it.
And
Yeah.
but it starts with that choice to be vulnerable, and it's like vulnerability is like courage, insofar as if it weren't scary and hard, it wouldn't be a vulnerable thing. Right? If it
That's
weren't
true. Yeah.
scary, it wouldn't be something that's brave, that we wouldn't need to be brave, we wouldn't need to be courageous.
Yeah.
So, vulnerability, the whole idea of it assumes a discomfort, a
Mm-hmm.
risk, right?
Mhm.
A branching out on trust when you don't know exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But by doing so, we build trust.
Yeah.
And then we actually, we can be vulnerable more easily because we have that safety, and it's not so big a risk anymore.
Mm. Yeah. That's definitely it. It's, as you say, it's navigating, both kind of not at the same time, but they're kind of working towards the same
Yeah,
direction, aren't
yeah,
they?
exactly.
And you're breaking those walls down. So the vulnerability, every time you're vulnerable, some of that wall comes down.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's exactly where we started and where we
Yes,
continue to go. Yeah.
beautiful. That's so good.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to also say, right, like the whole recognizing that ESP is not like standard equipment in any human or in most humans, and dispelling this expectation around, you should just know, you should have
Yes.
my brain mapped in your brain, and just
Yeah.
know me that
Yes,
well. Like, that's
yes.
just
And
it's so unfair. And
sending little reels or YouTube clips or articles does not count
no,
either.
no, it's not a adequate substitute for just directly sharing your needs
Yes,
or desire. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, and in a respectful way,
That's
that's
right.
how
Yeah.
we want to do it. Because if you want respect, you have to show respect to each other, and vice versa. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. I think people presume, expect. If you're so in love, if you're
Mm.
so compatible, if you're so
Yeah.
aligned, you
Yeah.
should be reading my mind. You should know what I want when I want it, and it's not
Mhm.
real life.
Mhm.
Anytime should is coming out of your mouth, check
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
Don't should on yourself or others.
Right. And I think
Yeah.
too what happens sometimes is that we do communicate it to our partner once, and then we
Mhm.
think that they should remember
Mm.
and always get it or be able to connect the dots
Or
because you have this information here, you should have known or you should be able to
mm,
anticipate that it would show up here. And like
mhm.
that's a lot of the times where we're different with our partners, we need to let them know more than once. We need to remind them, we need to help them create that map. Like you
That's
can create a mental map of your partner's mind. It's not going to be a perfect map, but it
Mm,
helps us to understand and anticipate and know them. It's what
mhm.
we all want. But we got to like walk the territory a bunch of times together and explain like here's this over here for me and this path goes there and this is where
yeah.
there's a landmine, so don't step there. Um
And we have different communication, various ways to communicate, don't we? And
yes.
I think it goes back to how well is that person listening and
Mhm,
how well
mhm.
is the other person communicating it?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
And I
there's
think
skills.
the other thing too is it goes beyond communication too, especially if you're talking about behavior change or something
Mhm,
where, I think it's unfair to expect that after a conversation that your partner is gonna 100% crush it every single time that situation shows up. That like, okay, the behavior is like changed. They will
Yeah.
never revert back to any old programming whatsoever. Like it's
Mm,
to be expected that it can take time, and there can be situations where your partner might revert back to old crappy patterns,
mhm,
and like that doesn't mean that they were listening.
mhm.
It
yeah.
just means that they need more practice at the change.
Yeah. Exactly that. And it doesn't matter what it is, but that's right. Yeah. That's the same for us.
Yeah,
Um, if somebody shows that they can demonstrate something once, as you say, it's not doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time because
Yeah,
it's not developed quite there,
yeah,
yet. And it will get there.
yeah.
exactly. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your next level. That's the intent, right, of our podcast,
Mhm.
these conversations, right, is what makes your love next level, but like also what is your next level, because we recognize that there's no getting or arriving at any destination. It's really just what's the next level from here, from here, from here. What's your
Yeah.
growing edge? So we'd love to know, like, what are you and Jason still working on? What's your next level?
Ooh, okay. Next level. Well, we have two teenagers, and
Survive.
so that's always fun and challenging.
Yeah.
Um, but we know in not the so distant future, they will be doing their own thing. They'll be more independent. They'll be living their
Mhm,
life away from home. And we, our goal is to kind of just continue on a path of just still, we are still changing. We will always be changing,
mhm.
but continue to develop our communication, our listening, and really learn more about each other because as I say we're always changing, so
Yeah,
there's still always
yeah.
things to learn and get to a place, not a final place, but when the children have moved on to do things, we want to be in each other's company, we want to do things together, we learn things together, we go out and explore, and I
Mm.
mean that's what we want to continue to do, and
Mhm,
we're on that path,
mhm,
definitely,
mhm.
because we talk about, in the past we wouldn't talk about the future. It was just a taboo. We wouldn't go there. But
Yeah.
we do talk about what we both want for the future.
Mm.
Are there things that we both really agree on? Other things that we kind of want to compromise on, and all of that. So it's exciting, really
Yeah,
exciting.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I love the way that you're talking about like this continuing to learn about each other, continuing to grow, continuing to change,
Yeah.
continuing to have adventures.
Mm.
Which brings me to another question that I think is so important for people to hear about and hopefully kind of get some inspiration around, which is how do you continue this growth together? How do you continue nourishing your relationship, maintaining it, like working on it? What are some of the things that you and Jason do to keep that growth and level up happening?
We probably hear it quite a lot, but it is really important is to have that time together,
Mm-hmm.
away from the routine stuff, the things you've got to do day to day,
Yeah.
because you can get very lost in your roles as parents.
Mm-hmm.
Your role as, he's self-employed, and his role in his job, and it's very important to come back together and have your own space together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's date times, not necessarily date nights, date afternoons, whatever.
Yeah.
But making time, both of you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel you've both got to show the effort to do that. That's really important.
Mm-hmm.
So we try and fit something in. One time I'll suggest, let's go and do this. Then another time Jason will say, the next time we do it, he'll sort of take the lead and say, well, let's go and do this. So it's very much a balance of both of us are kind of coming up with ideas and organizing something.
Mm-hmm.
They're not extravagant things. Sometimes it's just a coffee.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're catching up. You're away from the house and the humdrum of that. That's really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love that.
And it's a reminder of why you are together, why you enjoy each other's company, So and we do it. We don't do it every week. Everyone's busy. We're all busy, but we do it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It could be once a month or once every couple of months to make sure we still are kind of checking in with each other as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
love that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Super important and such a great reminder. We do hear it often. People kind of know this, but it's one of those things where it's like, I know we should, and then it's easy to like just put it on the back burner or forget about it, get swept up in the current of life. And like I don't care how many times we hear it, we talk about it. Make time for your relationship. Make time to connect. Make time to have sex. Make time to talk about hard things. Make time to have fun and play. Make time to go on adventures. Make time to remember who you are as a couple and why you're together. Right?
Yeah.
That has to be a conscious priority. And it doesn't have to be, as you're saying, Rebecca, it doesn't have to be every single week. But it has to be happening.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy for parents especially to lose sight of this, because I think there's also this expectation that we impose on each other about how we are supposed to show up as parents and what we give to our children in terms of our time, energy, and resources. And
our kids don't like it when we go on dates. Why don't we get to go? Can't you bring us?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe you're not going enough, because they probably get so used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that. We can easily neglect what's going on and the reasons we got together in the first place. Yeah.
I think a lot of people do, and and that's why the empty nest syndrome is a thing, right? And often a disruptor for relationships, because the kids have been an easy excuse to neglect your relationship, right? Or maybe not the excuse, but a thing that's happening, right? That has led to the neglect of your relationship, and you get to the end of it, and it's like, oh gosh, who are you again? And so,
how do we be together?
Yeah,
we do know each other, don't we? I get that. It can be, people do avoid those times sometimes because they avoid the conversations, don't they? And I'm all for like, let's just get in there and how are you feeling? What's happening for you? And and it can get a little bit uncomfortable. And as you say, over time, less and less used to it, and so it's
yeah, it's easy to just kick the can down the road, and ignore it until it gets to a place where you can't ignore it anymore.
Mm.
But yeah, like taking a more proactive approach and like risking having a conversation and experiencing potential fallout or conflict, but knowing, right, that you can recover from that. Like that's
Mm.
the next level.
Mhm.
Um, because then you're just in connection
Yeah.
instead,
Yeah.
which is great.
And you're more of a team. You can work things out together. If you know
Yes.
where you stand, or how somebody feels about something, or how they're feeling about you, then you can work on that. If you're constantly
Exactly.
second guessing, what can you work with, you know?
Yep.
Exactly.
Mm.
And forever is a really long time, right? Like you and Jason have been together 26 years.
Wow.
There's a lot of life that happens, a lot of things that change. And ideally, you'll have another 26 plus years
Plus,
more.
We've
And
been
life
half
is going to
forever.
keep happening,
Yeah.
And so it's like there's such a need, and we're so passionate about this. Like this idea of maintaining our relationship, continuing to engage in the work and investing the energy to keep our relationship strong and resilient and fulfilling through all of the seasons and
Mm.
changes and chapters of our lives,
mhm,
and doing that intentionally and consciously, right? That's why we've called our program Next Level Love, because we want, we're here to help couples keep getting to that next level
Mm.
and the next level and the next level, so that it becomes a part of who they be and how they do relationships, right? To keep growing
Yeah.
and going through life together in better and better ways through all of
Mm.
the changes.
Mm. And to me, that just is so exciting. I'm just as passionate. I think how
Yeah.
exciting to be with that person and experience that together
Yeah.
versus in and out of relationships, in and out of relationships,
Right.
giving up and just, "Nah, I move on. I move on."
Right.
The excitement isn't the same. It's not. It's growing together. It's learning about each other, learning about together. You know, it's just, I love it.
Yes, yes. And so I would love to hear, because you're in the relationship work too.
yeah.
Tell us about what you're doing and how you're helping people in their relationships, and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. Okay. So I generally work with women.
Mhm.
When I say that, I know that I with the coaching,
Excuse
I'm
me.
indirectly helping the men in their lives, the
Oh
other
yeah.
relationships they've got in their lives, because we've been there, and I know
Mhm.
that helps. But anyway, I do lots of one-to-one work with women, millennial women, mid-20s to mid-40s,
Mhm.
um, and I run several programs. One is a mini program, which is really about dipping your toe or taking that first step on that path.
Mhm.
Um, and the other program I run is a sort of fall transformational program for 10 weeks.
Nice.
Um, and I work with women who have low self esteem,
Mm.
very much where I was, feeling quite disconnected,
Mhm.
not really sure who they are, what they want, what does that look like. And also within all the work we do together, it's about understanding inner guidance, our intuition, because we've got all the answers here, but it's
Mhm.
tapping into that, it's developing that, and it's trusting. And the inner guidance then helps with building your confidence, building self-esteem,
Mhm.
and then showing up and attracting those healthy relationships.
Yes.
So that's how I support women and
Awesome.
everyone around them. But yeah.
So do you typically work with women who are desiring to find a partner, or women who are already in relationship wanting to make their relationship better?
Mm.
I actually work with women in various situations, but
Okay.
a lot of women are single women. Now,
Okay.
they could come out of an unhealthy relationship,
Mhm.
maybe more than one, and they're kind of thinking, why me? Why am I? Is it me? Why am I attracting these people? I don't know why I'm not finding the right person for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm working with some women at the moment who haven't been in a relationship at all, and they're
Oh,
feeling
wow.
quite overwhelmed
Yeah.
because they they don't they don't quite know where to start, what they want. So
Mm.
in this work, it is about really stripping back and looking at alignment and core values. And as I say, really working with our inner guidance, because that's where we need to start.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. And they're one-to-one. So that's really how I like to work.
Yeah,
One-to-ones.
great.
Yeah.
So if someone listening were interested in working with you, how could they find more information? How could they get in touch?
Yeah. So you can go ahead and look on my website, on Facebook, and Instagram, and the information will be all over there. But also can DM me, and we can just have a chat and see whether it's something that's right for you, really.
Yeah. Wonderful. And we'll make sure to put your contact information, your website, everything in the show notes for people who
Great.
are interested so they can get in touch with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Great.
And so before we wrap up, we want to ask one final question, which is, what words of wisdom or piece of advice would you want people to like really hear and walk away with?
I've got lots.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing right now that I want to kind of put across there is that until you really know who you are, until you know your core values, until you know what it is you want, or you're authentically, to strip that back, you cannot expect anyone else to know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be willing to look at yourself and work, as I say, strip back and really work within you.
Yes. Beautiful.
Okay?
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got a mic, but yeah.
I love it.
Well, we just want to thank you, Rebecca, for being our guest and sharing your story and your wisdom
Yes.
today. It's been amazing.
It's been great. I could talk about this for hours. It's been really
Us too.
Same. And
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes, our pleasure.
Our absolute pleasure. And we also want to thank those of you that have tuned in and listened. We hope that, you walked away with lots of gold nuggets for yourself and your relationship. And we also hope that you'll join us next week for another next level love story. And please share your takeaways in the chat. What is it that you learned about love today?
Until next time.